Jonathan Davis, economist and wealth manager. Jonathan, good evening to you.
Hello, Ian.
Put a bit of flesh on the bones of this one for us to start with. What's actually happened here?
Well, they've got a new chief executive who came in from outside of TESCO. They sacked the previous guy who was there for 3 years, but he was part of the TESCO hierarchy. So he didn't actually sort anything out. And they just kept having problem after problem. But this new guy, and it often happens in the large corporate world, someone new comes in, they think to themselves, well, I'm going to have to sweep clean here. I'm going to have to get rid of all the dross because that way, if I have a big clear out initially, then a few years down the line, my stock options will be through the roof. And I'm not at all surprised that this has happened. It was almost inevitable, but it doesn't change the underlying phenomenon of TESCO.
So the new guy, he closed some stores, he put the brakes on new stores that were due to open, etc. They say that explains a large chunk of this money. It was expected, etc. But, the big question, of course, going forward, can they recover and still be a dominant force in food retail?
I would say to you, there's no doubt that it will be for perhaps a generation. It has a huge percentage of retail generally and grocery retailing in particular in the UK and indeed across the world, although it's been retrenching across the world. It has such power. And if anything, it's not TESCO that has major problems. It's the other three big ones. Sainsbury, Morrisons and Asda maybe have bigger problems, although Asda has got the might of Walmart behind it, the biggest grocery retailer in the world. And of course, they're all competing against my favourite companies, Aldi and Lidl. I absolutely adore Aldi. We shop there every week. The main problem I would say to you that TESCO has is not about competing, because ultimately it's competing against the other big three. It's not going to have a problem there. It's a financial issue. It's got £5 billion still of pension liabilities, which it's going to have to fund. That's a big problem. That, however, will be resolved in due course. Yeah, and the interesting thing is about, you were the newsreader there was talking about the share price of TESCO has fallen 5% today, and everyone's going, shock, horror. Well, I've got news for you. It's fallen 50% over the last 7 years. And you know what? This is building to be a very interesting stock buy, and I wouldn't be surprised within a few years from now, anyone who's buying it at these current prices will be very delighted that they did so.
Interesting. And before we leave you, Jonathan, as an economist, we're bound to ask you this question. What or who is the flash crash trader? Who is this man?
Well, the US FBI, no less, are saying that there's a bloke from his semi-detached house in Hounslow who brought down, in effect, the New York Stock Exchange 5 years ago.
It's always Hounslow, isn't it?
I tell you, George Orwell is laughing in his grave.
So something serious has happened here, but you're questioning whether one lone man could have done it. Is that...
Well,
right?
Indeed. They're saying that he used some dodgy algorithms to get into the stock exchange, and it affected share and bond prices across the board. And in the space of a day, the stock market fell 10%.
Wow.
Shock, horror, probe. Do you know what? That happens. It just happens in markets. Maybe it doesn't happen 10%, but it does happen. And I feel for whoever this individual is. Oh, my God. I don't know if he's not done anything dodgy. I've no idea. But I can absolutely assure you he is not the guy who made this flash crash.
Okay, Jonathan. Interesting and almost thriller-like point to finish on there. Jonathan Davis.